So remember at the start of this video / podcast, I said, well, we can either be approaching life, attempting to grow externally, or we can be approaching life, attempting to grow internally. Now that growth internally is merely a remembering. If you're trying to grow internally, it's not necessarily about building more things, although that can just be an aligned part of someone's path. It's actually more about becoming aware of all the parts of us that we have forgotten our oneness. It's seeing life through a state of oneness, which is full love. And so it's like getting married and accepting someone for all their ups, all the downs, all the good parts, all the bad parts, all the strengths, all the weaknesses, and going, cool, that's real love. It's whole. It's not just I love one part of you, but I really despise the other part. It's a whole picture. And when someone's on an internal journey of growth, they're attempting to feel more whole. And that lens through which someone views life, when they get into cosmic consciousness, there is a shift of intention from accumulating externally to connecting internally. Accumulating externally, seeking externally, to connecting internally. And the problem or the challenge that arises with that is that it's a huge destabilization of the entire thing that's given us a fixed point to feel safe with. Stability is gone. And I'll give you an example of how I experienced this void. I was in a very, very big void for a very long time because I was so committed to growing externally that, and my inner territory of my inner consciousness. Remember I said we can be growing internally or externally. If someone's connected to their survival brain, which also includes our identity and our personality, it also includes the part of us that is afraid, survival brain. I call it the head. And the head attempts to live life to stay safe. That's its primary motive. It's looking for control. It's looking for stability. And then we have our heart that already is whole, and it's merely quietly with a sweet aroma of the divine inviting us to see what's already there, which is the duality and loving all of it and seeing the divine in everything. And so that process of waking up is incredibly different to the process of forgetting. I kind of divide our soul journey into 2 seasons, which it's not that linear, but it just helps me. First one is forgetting, and the second one is remembering. Forgetting is about getting. It's about getting things. It's for getting. It's about getting things so that we feel more whole externally. It's attempting to become more and accumulate more. But in the same vein, it creates separation because it presupposes that we're separate and we're attempting to make ourselves better so that we don't feel worse. And so it's not actually about togetherness. It's about succeeding. We want to be number one. We want to be the best stuff we can. And in that stage, we're under the illusion that life is separate. When we transition to the other stage, we are no longer forgetting, but we start to have our primary theme in life be about remembering. We don't have to get wholeness. We already are wholeness, and we just have to remember that. And so when we become about forgetting, when we're forgetting, it's about accumulating externals. When we're remembering, it's about taking the members, the parts of us that we've lost touch with, that we've judged, that we are seeking external to avoid. And we are remembering. We're bringing those members back into us, and we're integrating parts of ourselves we've rejected or judged or abandoned. And we're becoming more we're becoming more whole as a state. We already are more whole, but when we're in this remembering stage, it's about integrating and touching on that truth as a more stabilized state of consciousness. And so if someone's in the void, it means that they are transitioning from one way to approach life to another. And it's not as linear as that, because one can go in and out of the void at different layers of connecting to wholeness. There can be multiple voids, but just to share my first void with you guys, my first transition to living life, more identifying with wholeness. I was really forgetting. I was really about getting. And the getting for me was recognition. It was success. It was business achievements. It was health achievements. It was relational achievements. It was investment achievements. And it eventually, at the last little stretch before I woke up for the first time, was about spiritual achievements. That's why I started meditating. Okay, cool. It's time to master spirituality now. It was my lens at the time. And so when I was in that stage of my life, I was driven so intensely from a place of separation and lack, based on my karma and my upbringing and my trauma and all those things, to try to prove, if I get all these externals, I'm going to be lovable. I'm going to become more and more whole by getting these externals and bringing them into my life. I had the supercar, had the 4-story house, had the good-looking partner, all these things. And I'm thinking, wow, the more I get of this, the more chance I have of being worthy of love. Not consciously, but unconsciously. And so I started meditating to also master spirituality, get that as an achievement in that forgetting season. And like a lot of people that start meditating for stress release or to try to get more energy, to get more out of their getting, it folded in on itself. And by investing enough time in nothingness, in spaciousness, it gave me a vantage point to see what was super obvious to everyone else, and super obvious, not everyone else, but to a lot of other people, and super logically obvious, that I was driving from a place of deep, deep, deep insecurity, thinking that I'm not enough and I need to grow my business to be enough. And that was what my getting was about. And over a period of, I'm just going to, for convenience reasons, say roughly a year, I stabilized that realization that all these things that I was desperate to be recognized for, with my business that had all this staff, for my 100,000 plus person following, for the charity efforts that I'd given over $100,000 to charity, for my viral videos that got lots of views, and all the things that I was looking for recognition in. Over about a year, through the practice of meditation, I was able to remember that, and then to put it in just layman's terms, I could actually see what I was doing was coming from fear. Whereas before that, I was just being reactive to those fears. But through meditation, I was able to become aware. Holy crap, I'm trying to prove myself to everyone, stemming from my dad and my family. And then I'm trying to prove myself to my future partner, to the world, to my current partner, all because I'm living under the illusion that I'm unworthy and that I'm not good enough. And that was a big realization. So as I estimated, about a year of stabilizing that realization built me up to a point of readiness to go, I can't just keep doing this, knowing that what I built was built from fear, and what exists is a product of that. And I'm living a non-aligned, now irrelevant reality that's built on insecurity. If I really want to learn to feel whole, I need to be okay with letting go of my identity of being some young hotshot entrepreneur that succeeds at everything. I need to let that go. And so I did. I shut down my business. Karma and the world made that easier for me because all these financial problems ensued anyway. And I liquidated my company and went, I'm going to learn to love myself without all this. And that was the start of a void. Because not only did I now not have my fixed stability, which was I wake up and I work my ass off and I stay busy and I constantly push myself, constantly lean in. Without that, there was a lot of fragility underneath because those patterns were hiding something very painful underneath, a lot of emotional baggage that sat, or emotional pain that sat between that old reality of consciousness state fear and the new reality that I desired, which was to feel more inherently whole just for existing. That was my intention, to learn to love myself without being the entrepreneur, without flashing all my achievements in front of people all the time. And it has been roughly 6 years since that point. And it has been, I would say the entire time has been a macro theme of being in a void with little resurgent moments where I've desperately and obsessively rebounded into forgetting to try to make up for lost time that my fear told me existed. Oh my gosh, I've wasted this time quickly. Now I've done this spiritual thing. Go for it. Go big. And that same set of patterns came back in. And so it has been very, very challenging for me to stay the course of what my intuition knows is my most aligned path. What my heart knows is my most integral journey. And what my inner child, my heart, and all my different parts deeply crave to feel whole so that I can choose what I want to do without reacting to all my fears. And so it's a unique path because 95% of the world lives without moving past or hasn't yet touched transcendence or cosmic consciousness, or the two after that, God consciousness and unity consciousness. And therefore, it's very difficult for other people to understand.